Welcome to Season 5 of AIHA's podcast series, The Healthier Workplaces Show, where we explore timely and informative topics about occupational and environmental health and safety. I'm your host, Alejandro Castillo. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Reginald Richards. Reg is a semi-retired occupational health behavioral scientist. He was previously the global EHS manager for occupational health at Meta Platform and a safety and wellness leader at Disney's Animal Kingdom and EPCOT theme parks. He has also worked at OSHA and the Mine Safety and Health Administration, and served as an environmental sciences officer in the U.S. Army. Reg is the chair of the AIHA Social Concerns Committee and a member of the AIHA Pride Special Interest Group and Leadership and Management Committee. At AIHA Connect 2026, Reg presented an educational session called Imposter Syndrome in Science and Safety, Confronting the Inner Critic. This educational session explored imposter syndrome, its causes, and contributing factors, and how professionals can recognize triggers and develop strategies to move forward with confidence. Today, we're talking to Reg about his experience presenting at the conference, his insights and takeaways, and the professional benefits of speaking at AIHA Connect. Reg, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Let's get started. What inspired you to tackle the topic of imposter syndrome in an educational session at AIHA Connect? And why is it especially relevant for OHS professionals today?
Well, I was actually asked by AIHA to do this. So they were looking, I'm a member of the conference programming committee, and I was preparing another PDC. And so AIHA reached out and said, hey, can you put together something for our early career professionals? We'd like to talk about imposter syndrome. And I said, yeah, I think that would be fun. I'd be happy to do that. So it was great to be able to do that. And it is important because it's not just germane to OEHS professionals, but anyone at any time can feel imposter syndrome.
Absolutely. Now, what are common signs of imposter syndrome?
Well, the first thing I want to say is with that is let's talk about what imposter syndrome is. It's believing that you are not as competent as others perceive you to be. And some of those symptoms include feeling you're never enough. Striving for perfection, fear of making mistakes. That's a big one. You minimize your accomplishments, and then you have a fear of rejection and a constant need for external validation. The other thing I want to say is that peers may notice that folks that are suffering from imposter syndrome can actually be overworking, experience burnout, or significant fatigue.
Now, who may be vulnerable to imposter syndrome? Is it limited to early career professionals, or have you observed it among experienced professionals as well?
Yes, it can happen to anyone at any time. I myself have experienced it. I am currently writing a handbook on managing psychosocial hazards in the workplace. And sometimes when I'm writing the chapters of this book, I ask myself, do I really know what I'm doing with it? It can happen too if you're going into a new position and you're trying to learn the organization. Sometimes you may feel it, especially when others around you are moving very well as a group, and you feel like an outsider at times because you're new. And then you may feel guilty because you're not participating or contributing as you feel you should. So it can happen to anybody at any time.
Absolutely. Now, if an attendee of your educational session took away only 3 things, what would you want them to be?
Well, the first one is that it can happen to anyone at any stage of your career. The second one, there are health outcomes. So it's something that you want to recognize and manage. The health outcomes could include increased blood pressure, increased fatigue, increased heart rate, which can lead to all types of issues, not just psychological, such as depression and anxiety, but also some physiological responses, which could be muscle tension, diabetes, and some type of heart disease. So those things you want to be made aware of. Now, obviously, those are long-term effects, but you do need to be made aware that there are some health outcomes. So that's the second thing. The third thing is there are things that you can do about it.
So let's talk about that. What are the things you can do about it?
Well, the first one is to know who you are. So when I gave the presentation, I talked about it's good to know who you are, and that is determine and really do a deep dive into what your values, beliefs, norms, and attitudes are. and really understand yourself. The next thing is take stock in yourself. Also, and give yourself credit. Not only do you want to say, well, I don't know if I can handle this, that, and the other, but also look at, well, what can I bring to the table? And this is something, when I was a supervisor, I've advised all of my team members who are looking for different opportunities. And I still do this now with people when they say, I don't know how to interview for this job, and I don't know if I'm qualified. And what I tell them is look and say, okay, what skill sets do I bring to the position rather than what do I don't have to bring to the position? So that's another thing that you can do. The other one too is to take a break, take a step back, relax, find a safe space, and go through your mantra. I am worthy. I am competent. I know what I'm doing. If I need to get information, then I can ask for it. And then another thing I always tell people is get out of your comfort zone. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to take on new challenges.
What was your overall experience with presenting this session at AIHA Connect?
I had a lot of fun with it. I was actually surprised that there were more than 50 people sitting there, and they were from early career all the way to people that have retired from the profession. It was interesting because as I was walking the expo, it was right before I was going to get to the Nexus Lounge where we had the presentation, and a couple of people I were talking to said, oh, I've got to get to this presentation. I can't wait to hear it. It's I don't know if you've heard of it. It's Imposter Syndrome. I said, yeah, I'm very familiar with it. I'm the one that's giving it. So we walked over together. And I had a lot of questions from the group. So it really was a lot of fun to have that conversation and that dialogue with all the participants.
Let's talk about that. What aspects of audience engagement or discussion stood out to you the most?
The questions that I got, and just going through it, and then providing my experiences as well, and also showcasing my vulnerabilities, because I brought that up, and I think that's good for people to actually be able to say, hey, this is where I'm vulnerable, but here's what I've done to help overcome that. And then I think a lot of folks also, I had a lot of folks that came up after the session. They may have been uncomfortable to ask the questions during the session, which is perfectly fine, because I always set some ground rules when I do these types of presentations. And one of them is participate at your comfort level. I never force anyone to speak. I never force anyone to answer. I allow all people to express their views. And I also ask the group that we respect everybody else's views. If people want to share, we need to listen and respect that. So yeah, it was overall very good. Had some great questions. The one thing I couldn't go into, which I may do this year, is actually talk about, okay, for all of the folks that are actually senior leaders or maybe an OEHS leader, how do you help others who may be suffering from imposter syndrome? So that might be a follow-on. I just discussed it with AIHA folks. In fact, it was yesterday. We had a meeting about what can we do for leadership and early career professional activities. And I said, well, we can do a follow-on to imposter syndrome, since it was well received, and say, okay, for now leadership, here's what you can do as a leader or a supervisor. Because there are things that I have done in the workplace. So I have a lot to share on that, on how we can help people grow and come over their fear of not being enough.
AIHA Connect 2026 on demand is now available. Access over 101 possible contact hours, 101 education sessions, 13 education pop-ups, and 15 innovation stations. The full education package is available for purchase through December 31st, 2026.
So let's talk about that a little bit more. If you were to present another educational session at AIHA Connect, how would you approach it differently?
It would be more geared towards not helping them overcome imposter syndrome. I might cover a few things on that, but just like I did with this session, one of the things I put in the agenda for this past session was, I'm going to talk about what you can do about it individually. I'm not going to focus on external forces such as poor leadership. Now, this time, if I do it for leaders, I will say I am not here to talk about what you can do for yourself, but I want to talk about what you can do as a leader to help others. So there are two different perspectives. And when I've done safety training in the workplace, it's the same thing I've done. I've never really been a fan of telling leaders how to be safe because they should already know that. What I do is teach leaders how to keep others safe. For non-supervisors, I talk about how they can stay safe. But for leaders, I focus on here's how you can keep others safe. So that's how I'm going to approach this next one.
That's great to hear. Now, what advice would you give to someone who is interested in submitting a proposal to lead their own educational session or PDC at AIHA Connect?
I would tell them to do it. Submit it. And if they need help, we have mentoring. One of the things that's helped me being on the conference programming committee, I now understand how that sausage is made. And one of the things I've asked is we've got to be a little bit more transparent with our members to say, okay, you may have had a great presentation, but you weren't selected. We've got to tell people why. And it turns out we only can take about 40% of the submissions because of space. And I've told AIHA leadership, you've got to share that. Because when you tell somebody you did a great job in this presentation, but you weren't selected, that has an impact on how they feel and could actually cause this imposter syndrome, saying, well, what's the point? If you're saying this is great, and I'm not selected, what gives? So, and then when I review them, I always put those comments in there that say, here's how you can make this better, and please resubmit next year. That's the other thing we've got to do better as a committee. So I'm a big advocate for that. Don't just say, we didn't like your proposal. Hey, this was great. Here are some things I recommend, and resubmit for next year. And it could be decrease your objectives is a big one. Because a lot of people don't realize that hour goes by super fast, especially if you want to have 15 minutes for discussion. So you've got to, and if you have 6 or 7 objectives, you're never going to make it. You're not going to be covering enough detail, and your participants may leave confused and say, hey, that was not really worth my time. So that's one of the big things I've noticed is if I see too many objectives, then I will recommend that we don't accept and send it back saying, please revise your objectives. Only take 2 to 3 of these, or submit a part 1 and a part 2. The other thing with that is to, again, seek help from folks that have presented before and ask them, hey, can you take a look at this? And I did that for both this session and when I was doing the PDC on psychosocial hazards, I had folks that I sent them to saying, what do you all think? Give me some feedback. Because there isn't a lot of time. We got to resubmit in September. So I'll be doing the same thing, working with some of my peers saying, here's what I want to do. How do you think this is going to go over? The last thing that I will say on this is that we've got to do better too, explaining to our members. We always ask them, well, what do you need from the organization? But I don't know if they think that there are a bunch of gnomes running around AIHA that makes all this happen. I have to remind them it's you, the members, that make this happen. So if you say, I need a session, I'd like to see a session on this, well, somebody in the membership has to put that together. AIHA is not going to do that because that's not their purpose. Okay, so that's the other thing I think we've got to get across is that we need membership to be active to say, okay, what do we need as a profession? And I like to focus on those emerging issues. Or if we have great case studies that said, here's how I've solved a problem in the workplace, maybe others can benefit from it. So those are the things that I like to see in our sessions.
Can you walk me through what an ideal proposal looks like for somebody who's interested in submitting their first proposal for the first time?
Yeah, there's a specific form. What I recommend is, since it's done online, what I recommend is taking a Word document and putting all those questions on the Word document first, because it's not like you can print it out And so what I've done is I've put all the questions and it talks about your summary statement. What are your objectives? Who is this for? Is it for a beginner? Is it for an intermediate? Is it for professional? Is it for a technician, a practitioner? Is it for early career versus student? And that sort of thing. And then there's another section that talks about, okay, what do you hope people get out of this? And how is this going to impact the practice of occupational health and safety and industrial hygiene? So once you get all that done, then what I recommend is you take that Word document and send it to some peers and then say, okay, this is what I'm thinking about submitting. Did you have any advice or anything that you think I should do? And then if someone sent it to me, I'd look for and say, does the title match the objectives or the content? So if you're going to be talking about a specific subject, then those objectives and the content should align with that. I've seen some where they don't, and I've asked, okay, what is it you're trying to do? Because if people don't have a good understanding of what's going on in the topics, they may walk out saying, this is not what I expected. And we've gotten that feedback before where they said, okay, the title didn't match the actual content. And then make sure that they have it aligned. So if you're going to be talking about, for example, fit testing for respirators, that's a pretty solid competency that has been well studied and well discussed. So if you go in and say that's for the experienced professional, we may ask, well, is it really? Is it really for like beginners? Or if you're going to say, here's how you do a noise exposure assessment, that's really maybe for early career and not for seasoned professionals. Unless there is some new study that shows here's how you do a different analysis on those data, then that might be appropriate. So I think that's the key, is getting that done and then getting feedback from people you trust and your peers. And then once you get that done, the only thing I do then is go back to the website and I cut and paste what I've already done. So that way I know it's ready to go, and then hit that submit button.
AIHA Connect 2027. Call for proposals is open. Submissions are due September 9th. Scan the QR code to learn more.
Okay, so let's say they submit the proposal, it gets accepted. What are the next steps for that presenter?
They basically have to make sure that their presentation is completed, because they do need to upload it into the system, hopefully before the conference, so that the participants can actually take a look at those. And I'm a big advocate of that too, is if you have any materials that you want your participants to see, you've got to make sure that they're uploaded into AIHA's document system for the presentation. Making sure your slides are done, and then an hour before your presentation, you hit that speaker ready room, go over with the technicians and see how everything looks, especially if you're showing a movie, okay, or a video, or you want to access a website. You have to make sure that those things are going to be functional. Sometimes I've heard that they like your slides in PDF format. I've done both, to where I've uploaded things in PDF. If they didn't have links in it, I uploaded it as PDF. If they did have links, and I've asked participants for like my PDC, would you rather have the presentation slides or would you rather have the PDF? And all of them have said we'd rather have the PowerPoint presentations. So that's what I've uploaded for them. The other thing too is you have enough time, because you get notified around, I think, December or January for the educational sessions. The pop-ups are a little later and the posters are after that. So you do have time to make sure that your slide deck is ready to go. And again, you can use the same system, to where once your slides are done, those same people that help review your proposal can help review those slides to say, okay, how's my PowerPoint look? Because there are some good techniques to have a really good presentation. And I've done that when I was a adjunct faculty at George Washington University. I actually gave a presentation on how to do presentations. Some of the students were baffled, and I had explained to them that, yeah, sometimes your presentation is half the battle and the content's the rest.
What are the benefits to presenting at AIHA Connect?
You get to interact with them. You get to find out who they are, what are they interested in, and you could actually learn about new things, because I've had folks that come up and said, hey, have you heard about this? And if I said, no, can you send it to me? Or if I'm working on something, a lot of people would come up and say, I'd like to participate in this project that you're working on. So it's a great networking tool as well. And I've always welcomed that. And I told folks that if you want to get in touch with me, I'm on AIHA. You can just go on. My phone number and email is there. You can send me an email anytime you want.
Reg, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much. And anytime.
That wraps up today's episode of the AIHA's Healthier Workplaces show. To learn more, visit the AIHA website and follow us on social media. Thank you for tuning in, and as always, remember that healthier workplaces mean a healthier world. Until next time.